welcome to Beauties and Beasties, the independent pest podcast for the UK.
Hello. How are we all doing?
The terrible trio.
Yeah, all of us this time. It's just I was going to say something like terrible trio, but I couldn't think of anything else to say. So yeah, the
Three
terrible
Musketeers.
Trio. Yes, Three Musketeers.
Three musty queers.
Oh, that didn't take long, did it?
That's just ruined my Christmas.
Straight off the bat there. That was amazing. I was going to be like, I feel like Aramis, and you're just going to be launching in with that. So great.
Yeah.
Happy days. There we go. Well, very Merry Christmas to you too. And
to you. And to all our listeners.
Yeah. Well, as I was just reminded by a pop-up on the screen, our StreamYard subscription ends in a couple of days, which means we need to renew, which technically means we have been streaming live from StreamYard every week without fail for a calendar year. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to listen back to the good stuff, go back just a year. If you go back any further than that, you are going to be wading into the realms of when we used to do this on Facebook. Do you guys remember that?
Well,
Come on, then. This is off the cuff. As everybody can probably tell, none of this is ever scripted, so we don't really have a list. So, what do you think was the most popular podcast of last year?
Oh,
this year. Still.
Of this year. My bet will be on the Buckle one. So that'd be my bet. Sean?
Bobby Corrigan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or Ian Andrew.
Yeah. Well, which
definitely
one was
Bobby
it?
Corrigan was top.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was good.
You're a close second.
Who was
a close second?
I'm not saying.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually got the chance to see Mr. Bobby live in America, where he gave a talk. Weirdly enough, all on building smart cities, which was something he was just touching on when he came onto our podcast to talk to us midway through the year about trying to get New York City integrated to become a smart system, to get all of the pest controllers and all of the data and everyone working together to try and build up a map of big, these big cities. So it's really interesting actually to see what he was sort of hinting at and talking to us about on his podcast, and then actually going to see him give a podium talk at Pest World on that was really kind of cool. And also got the chance to see at Pest World Neem, which was also fairly amazing. All of that stuff again that she was alluding to about using, she was talking about how to use monitoring bait to try and get rodents into boxes, but not necessarily. It's to anyone who's listening back to
it looks like a foot.
Yeah.
What are you waving around,
camera,
Sean?
Sean's dog is sat upside down next to him, waving.
I thought you were waving around a dead rabbit's foot or something.
It's just how he sleeps. He sleeps upside down with his legs in the air. Because he's proper stressed out, you see. So yeah, he's So this is the first
Dr.
time.
Richard Naylor came close to the top as well.
Oh,
he's been
our friend that killed Jim Rob Simpson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Came very close to the top as well. And then we've got Mr. Buckle.
Yeah.
Oh, we got Darren from 1EMV up there with the glue board talk.
Purely Mark Porter's there somewhere or thereabouts. Mark's was quite good.
Mark's down there, just underneath Darren, and then Mr. Buckle. And then we got Mr. Martin Colbold.
That was great.
And then we've
He's a
got
character.
Graham Turner.
Mm.
Then we've got the series that won't be mentioned
Okay.
about hornets.
Got a few we're not allowed to talk about, isn't it?
There's about 5, I think.
Well, we will be talking a little bit more about hornets today because it definitely was a big part of this year, wasn't it? Were hornets, or should I say, the lack of them.
Wasn't. No.
Was it though? It was a big part of our year with 4 episodes about hornets, but actually it was a bit of a damp squid, wasn't it? Really?
It was. I was expecting there to be a lot more bluster and excitement around all of the hornets, and there wasn't really, was there? It was kind of a damp squid. What was the total number in the end of reported hornet sightings in the UK?
26.
26 nests, I think.
That's
But yeah, the thing.
surprisingly low.
Yeah, hang on a second. And this is just my thoughts. They're all thinking they've done a great job killing them all, and they've reduced the numbers, and next year's going to be great. But if it goes in correlation with the wasp season we had,
Mm.
you know,
So here's a
you're like,
question for you two on the ground pesties. So for years and years and years, we used to sort of like have a massive wasp season and then a very small wasp season, and then you'd have an all rightish wasp season, then back to a big wasp. We had that sort of like almost clock that you could set it to. You'd have a brilliant one, you'd have a terrible one, you'd have an all right one, you'd be back to a brilliant one again. All to do with a couple of things, but largely the fact if you have a lot of wasps, it means that the following year all of those queens that are produced tend to outcompete each other, and so you get a lot of little nests, and then the following year you get not so many nests, but they tend to be a bit bigger, and then the following year you get not so many nests and you get huge numbers of them. But with that, do you think we're going to see the same thing? Do you reckon we're getting back into a predictable pattern? Because we lost that pattern for years and years. Like it disappeared off. Do you think we're going to get back to that, 1 on, 2 off wasp season?
I think that's quite hard to tell, in the fact that as a business, the longer that you go on, hopefully the more wasp nests you get because you've got more contacts. It's not necessarily that there are more nests there. It's the fact that you're getting more calls, hopefully, because you've just been around that much longer. I don't know.
I suppose looking at this for years from a manufacturer's perspective, because we would see the volumes of insecticide sold rather than sort of like the number of call outs that we'd have. So we would see it as almost predictable.
Can't really say that, can you? Because a lot of people were buying tons of FICAM this year, but there wasn't any wasp nests around.
I have already seen a couple of posts of people being like, what's the cheapest way to dispose of half a pallet of FICAM? And yeah, that's it. I mean, there's got to be so much of it kicking about right now. I mean, so much of it, considering that everyone bought forward expecting this year to be the year they could use it all up in. And I don't know, how many wasp nests did you guys do this year?
A third.
A third of the number I usually do, you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
About 50%.
Learning experience, though. What did you do?
150, 180, something like that. So
Yeah,
about 50% down. How about everybody else just listening?
I don't know. Actually, this will probably be a really good time to say that it's a little bit, as you might see, we've got no guests on tonight. It's just us. But with that, when I say we've got no guests on, that is a lie, because it would be really great. You can see on the Facebook page, on my LinkedIn page, on the thread that's going on now, there's a link that's popped up. It says streamyard.com/y something. If you click on that, you will be put straight into the green room, and you can come on with us tonight, and you can tell us your highs and lows, your wins, or you can wade in on the conversation we're having. So don't be shy in coming forwards. If you want to come and have a chat.
Here's a conversation for you. Someone said it was very difficult to see your own growth as a business, and I always thought that was a load of shit. But this year, it's absolutely true, because I thought we haven't really done a lot. And then when you look back over your year and you realise what you have achieved, it's massive, isn't it?
Yeah. It's when you, it's that, you know, if you judge everything by a single step up a single rung on a ladder, a single step up the side of a mountain, if you keep if you check every 30 seconds, it looks as though you haven't gone very far at all. But when you look back over the course of, an hour, a day, a year, suddenly, it looks as though you can see that progress you've made. And
So,
I think all three of us have done huge things this year. Huge things.
talking of huge things this year, I hear on the line somewhere that somebody's started a CPD scheme.
Fucking hell, yeah. Yeah.
Come on,
One of
then.
my brain. So
Still
it's
there?
just ahead. I tell you what happened. We had pest software, and part of for anyone who's not a pest controller doesn't do that type of work. If you're getting audited by any auditor, really, as a general rule, they're going to want to see what qualifications you've got and what your continued professional development is, etc., etc. So we'd sort of half built a system within our system for keeping track of the training that each individual member of the team did. And then my little brain got thinking, and I thought, well, we're doing it for training. What's the difference if we add CPD to it? Like, not official training. Do you know what I mean? You just don't get an official. The only difference between CPD and training, for me, for want of a better word, is with training, you look to try and get some sort of qualification at the end, whereas CPD, you just get a pat on the back. And I thought, that's the only difference. I thought, I wonder if I could bring it in and do CPD for us. And then I looked into it and I thought, if I'm building it and it's there, like, and it's suitable for the people who use our system, why do we not just offer it to everybody? So that was how it came about. Ask Gary if he thought it was a good idea. Get a bit of exposure, and give something back to the industry. I thought there was a need for it, so we were set about it, and what a drawn out process it has been. But I feel like we are heading in. We're not there yet. We have a scheme which is recognised by the MPTA at this moment. There's still a lot more hoops to jump through, like an awful lot more. But we're putting it together, and it seems to work. Happy New Year, Terry Ashley.
Happy New Year, Terry.
And yeah, so I'm dead honest. So it would be great to tell you all the positives and yeah. But ultimately, we've just got to keep going, keep a nut down, keep working hard. And we've offered it for free to everybody this year. And we have a mega, I can't even begin to tell you how big it would be for the 2026, which would make joining our scheme a no-brainer for everybody in the industry, I think. But again, there's an awful lot of hard work and effort to get to that point, and then there's the putting together. And you've got to remember, at the same time that Gary's building that system, he's also building a software system. So his hands are full. He's added RAMs this year, and he is in the process of adding trend analysis, both fly catch trait and sort of heat maps on places and what have you. I think that's skeleton built, and it'll be ready for me to test in the near future before it goes out. And then there's other bits and bobs being put together. So yeah, we've got all sorts of things going on. Just the hard work, isn't it? Just the hard work.
Do we need to recap on what's happening in 2026, Alex?
Yeah, Alex is the best
Probably
person to talk about that.
would help. Yeah, so change it to crew. So this is specifically a crew-led program. And for those listening who may be new into our industry, because we've got a lot of newbies listen to the podcast to just get a feel for what the industry is like and what's going on. At the moment, when you get your qualifications, that's it. You get your qualifications, and the only need to do CPD realistically at present is to remain a member of a trade association, either the BPCA or the MPTA. So again, it's a self-governing, self-stewarding system, which is what our industry in the UK largely is. Now, Crew, which is our designated stewardship program. These are the guys, it's made up of all of the manufacturers, distributors, and other key stakeholders like trade associations, both from in our industry and outside the industry. So the gamekeepers, the farmers, and a couple of others as well. They, a couple of years back, more than a couple of years back, 2015, developed this program called Stewardship, which was to try and limit the amount of residues released into the environment through the use of second generation anticoagulants. Arguably, that has had some impact, but not necessarily the impact that we were all hoping for. And so with that, the next step within that program was to try and bring more professional users under that umbrella, gamekeepers and farmers. But in that same step of bringing both farmers and gamekeepers in line with what pest managers have to do, came the necessity that it couldn't be a one and out program. You couldn't just do a safe use of rodenticides and that would be you done for the rest of your life. So they've now put a limited time frame on the safe use of rodenticides qualification, which can either be updated so many years, you retake your qualification every so many years in order to maintain your ability to continue purchasing professional strength rodenticides, or you have to show you have attained so many CPD points from a crew approved training program to the sum of 3 points a year, so many points over the course of 5 years in order to do that. And so this is aimed largely at the agricultural communities to try and make sure that they are in line with what we have to do. Now, we as professional pest managers, because this is what we do day in, day out, still have a larger requirement for CPD because we do a lot more stuff. It's our bread and butter. Farmers still have to do a lot more CPD with other schemes. You know, they have to do CPD for their plants, they have to do CPD for their herbicides and for their sprayers and other odds and sods like that. So this is just including them into the program wholesale. What Sean's decided to do is to make himself, well, Sean, what have you decided to do? What's the end game of your, you know, you built this for you, but you're building it for everyone.
Yeah, exactly that. So that's where we're at. I would like to get to a point where, so that first of all, there are people out there who you are not going to please, and I understand that there's people out there who go, CPD is a load of shit, it's not for me. That's great, you're not my customer. You know, they are the equivalent, for me, they are the equivalent of the person with rats in their garden that will not employ a professional pest controller. They're going to go and buy amateur stuff. That's fine. I don't criticize them, I won't criticize you. But talking to the people who you can almost rule out the people who love CPD because they're bought into it and they're going for it. That's good. The people who sit on the fence, from what I can gather, are the people who feel like CPD should be more useful. So at the moment we are, for want of a better word, a register. We are literally the place that you will go to register your points. But I think there's lots of scope within the system to actually allow it to help pest controllers as well. Whether that's connecting pest controllers with one another with different skills or whatever, I don't know. We've had a number of brainstorming events, and the one thing I've learned through doing pest software more than anything is that until you know that something's definitely going to happen, don't say anything, because later on people are like, you said we were going to. Customers' expectations change. It's like when you say, oh yeah, we can get rid of rats in your house, and you do, but they don't fix the drain, and they're like, you said you would get rid of them, not for the rest of your life, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm very conscious of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We've got some things in the fire that I think which will really help the industry and help its controllers.
Thing is, I know that, I've read quite a lot of the knocking of CPD, and people say, oh, I shouldn't get a point for reading the magazines. That's not real training. And I shouldn't get a point for, meeting and having a bacon roll with my rep. That's not training. But it's not necessarily training, is it? It's education. Yeah. So, when you read, it does take I don't know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes to read the magazine and then to do the pest test or inwardly digest it. And honestly, most times, if you read the magazine, you do learn something, or not only just learn it, but it reinforces something. Wrong signal. Reinforces something in your brain that you've picked up on. So I think that's a little bit unfair of a lot of people to say it's not a real. You meet your rep, he tells you what's going off of the register, you know, what's not being used any longer, what's coming on, you know, what's new on the scene. You know, Mr. Smith, pest controller down the road, killed his dog using XYZ. Best not use that, but along those sort of lines. So it's you know, it is all education. It's you know,
It is,
and it is good to keep it up.
I'll tell you the thing which pisses me off about it, and this is something that I'll happily say to anybody's face. So please don't feel like I'm having to go behind your back, because I will absolutely say to your face, we are an industry of old white men predominantly, but often a lot of us don't have the. So a lot of us don't have the same educational skills. You know, we've got dyslexia, we've got all this sort of stuff. We've got some people who don't like social situations, so, and they become a pest controller because they're out on their own in the middle of nowhere. If we were to turn around and say to somebody, I'm sorry, reading magazines doesn't count. I'm sorry, listening to a podcast doesn't count. I'm sorry, this doesn't, you know. And what those people are saying is, the manner of training which works for me is the following, and everybody must follow that thing. But we're not all the same. And people learn to osmosis. So I tell you now, I promise you now, the scheme that we run will never, ever, 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 ever be hamstrung by an individual's thought of what training should be. And if that's not for you, that's great. I don't mind that. But please don't knock other people for learning the way they learn. You know,
we all keep, I know it's the buzzword, and it's a word, it's something that I just think is, I don't like the buzzword, but DEI, you know, inclusivity. Surely the inclusivity part also includes the way that people learn. Some people like to listen, go into the first call on a Monday morning, they listen to a podcast. You know, some people read something and the next minute it's gone. So that's why it's important.
I fully agree. So for all the years I've done training, and anyone who's had training from me, I hope that you'll chime in and agree. It is about trying to include as many different medium into that training as is possible. I've been to some training before where it's just been whiteboards, you know, just like PowerPoint. And for some people, that's great. Some people do that really well. Some people, it's just, you know, 3 slides and a lot of talking. And if you've got a, you know, wonderful monotonous voice like mine, that is dangerous, because that sends people to sleep. But, you know, it needs to be a mix. Some people don't necessarily like the practical things. So the whole, you know, a good training program should try and touch on the visual, the audio, the practical, all of these things round into one. And that's how people learn. And more importantly than that, as you kind of touched on, it's CPD is continual professional development. It's not necessarily, as you say, training. It is developing yourself professionally. That is making sure that you keep in touch with your industry. So if you follow what I'm saying, there is no one medium. I think our podcast probably gets there, probably a lot more than a lot of others. We get, you know, let's say about 1,000 views across all of our medium a month. Okay, that's 10% of our industry, just 10% of our industry. Pest Mag might only get to another sort of like 10, 20, 30%. The trade associations gets to their 30% respectively. There is still a stunning number of people in our industry that are totally unconstructable. When things change, how do they learn? How do you know when FICAM, and we'll talk about FICAM in a bit, I've no doubt, but when FICAM left, if you weren't in contact with your distributors, if you weren't doing training, if you weren't X, Y, and Z, how would you ever know? So CPD is more about well, it's not just about learning, it's also about making sure that you are connected to your industry and you know what's going on. And that's the importance of it, in my opinion.
And you can't say, because I've been doing this for so long, which so many people have heard me say, and probably getting pretty bored with it. But so much has changed, and also so much has changed quite quickly, because for the first 10 years of doing this, nothing really changed. Much the same.
Mhm.
Yeah, you lost Lindane, you lost, and then 15 years, you lost organophosphates. But look at what's changed in the last 10 years or the last 5 years. It's gone from hero to zero. It's like you something you did 30, it's a world away from what we did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And to say, oh, well, I've been doing it for 30 years, there's nothing you can't teach me. We're not saying you need to be taught anything, because the skills that you learn are still there. It's just you need to be up to date with what's new. The skills are still the same. Trapping rat, how you trap a rat, how you tell what a run is. Biologically, the actual species and everything hasn't changed much, except for bed bugs. No, but everything else has.
So I've got a question for the pair of you here, because this kind of falls back into a comment that was made on one of the Facebook forums, which is if certain groups get their ways and we lose chemicals, will that be the death of the pest control industry? Someone put up a post saying,
it would be the birth of the pest control industry.
I wouldn't say the birth, but I don't
It
think it
fucking
would
will. I'm telling you
it would
now,
be-
if we lose chemicals, all of a sudden, the
Do you mean
whole
for
industry,
rodenticides?
I meant for all of it, for all of it.
Yeah.
everything would change, and you would end up with skilled workers.
We've gone.
We already
full
have skilled
circle.
workers.
We don't
We
really
already
do.
have skilled workers.
We don't have an industry which relies so heavily on chemicals, so heavily, and is run by the chemical manufacturers. We work for the chemical manufacturers. That we've got to a point, Alex, where putting down boxes, we read a label and it says, put down the box and fill with chemicals every 5 to 10 meters or 1 to 2 meters. That's
It's
where we're at.
always that. Yes.
Yeah.
But
But what I'm saying is, if you take them away, if you take that
Mhm.
ability away, all of a sudden you'll get the birth of a brand new industry.
But I think the same but different, which is we will have to rely on a lot more skills that we already have. And in my opinion, we should be using in conjunction. It's no different from any other tool at the end of the day. A chemical is a tool. And to read ad verbum from the label keeps you compliant, but it doesn't necessarily teach you how to use that chemical to its fullest extent. That's where the skill of a pest manager comes in. Otherwise, you could argue anyone could do it. Anyone can read a label. Anyone can put down a snap trap. Anyone can put down a box with a bit of chemical in it. What separates us from them?
But the thing is, people say, oh, well, actually, I have seen people actually say, what makes us different is that we can use professional chemicals. That's not what makes us different.
It's how we use them.
Joe Bloggs can still go to Mole Valley Farmers and pick up his bait at 0.25% and kill shit. I mean, as a company, we've gone whole hog, and we really very rarely use on domestic work. We use rat traps and mouse traps. Nobody looks at us and says, well, you're not a proper pest controller because you're not whacking down a load of bait. Nobody's ever said that. When we explain it, they're like, oh, that makes sense.
And that's it. It's the ability to explain it, isn't it? It's the ability to explain what you're doing. And I kind of think that rolls back round again to CPD, doesn't it? Because if you weren't listening to this podcast now, I bet some of you are listening back to this thinking, actually, if I spent a bit more time, what was it you once told me, said to me, Hugh, that, a large part of pest management is the presentation. And that's not necessarily the presentation of the bait. Well, I'll let you explain, because you explain it a lot better than I do.
Service is a show, so put one on. Make a show of it. It's not, don't just wander in, go, yeah, put your traps down, missus, and off I go. And they look at you and think, well, I could have freaking done that. But when you're down there and you're inspecting and you're checking and you're looking and you're positioning your traps, and then you explain it to them and what you've done and why the black cat trap will work better than a snap trap, or this trap will work better than that trap, and explain it to them, they're like, oh, not as stupid as he looks, is he? Perhaps he is a professional.
It'd be fucking difficult for you to be as stupid as you look.
What with me?
Oh. And it's
you're not my friend no more.
Which one of us he was talking to there. I mean, you son of a. But no, I think you're absolutely right. It's you don't have to go War and Peace. You don't have to sit them through a university lecture. You don't have to explain it. But the other great thing, and for a lot of people listening to this, another great thing about explaining what you're doing as you go along, number one, it gives your client confidence what you're doing. Number two, it will mean that you will be internally assessing what you are doing as well. Have I actually made the right decision for this? Billy's just put up a post saying there'll be qualified pest controllers out there turning over 10k a year, which will suit them perfectly. Asking them to pay £300 per course 2 or 3 times a year would be unfair.
Agreed.
Agreed, but if you're turning over 10 grand a year,
you've got to remember,
depending on how long you've been going, mind.
No, but what you've got to remember is a lot of people wind down more than capable. But the amount of people up here who are just winding down and making some pocket money, doing a decent job, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, you're going to have to put in however much it is. It's like, is it fair? Like, no, it's not.
Well, no. Arguably, though, is it fair that the bar should be lowered because some people want to step out of the game, and bringing the standard of pest management down for everyone else?
You can
hang on a second. What Billy's saying is asking them to pay for like big courses every year. What he's saying is, for those people, CPD, doing an exam, reading a magazine, going on a podcast, turning up to meet his rep, he's still invested in the community. And he's invested in a level that will keep him at the level that he needs to be at to get to where he wants to be. Turning around to him and saying, oh, by the way, you've got to do £1,000 worth of training every year in order to maintain yourself is unfair. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
But that's not what anyone's asking you to do, is it?
No, that's what he's saying. But some people are saying...
point again.
But some people are...
That's what he said.
Some people are saying you have to do training, aren't they? You've got to do a day's course for your CPD, not doing podcasts and everything. So you can get your CPD without spending a penny.
Yeah, but what I don't, and I might get this wrong. The people who I've seen who have criticised what CPD is often want people to do the courses that they've already done. They feel like they are that next step up, that they are better than the rest. And it's like, in order for you to be a good pest controller, you must do what I've done. So you must do your, whatever it is. And I'm like, I just don't think that's true, Like every level 3 pest controller probably thinks that every pest controller should be a level 3 pest controller. Every field biologist probably thinks that the ones below them are not as good as them. And if you ask them what they should do, they'd probably say, yeah, you should do a field biologist. It's great for insects and da. Same blokes couldn't go out and net a job, couldn't go out and do a drain survey. There's different people who train and do different things in different ways. Some of us are visual learners. Some of us are academics. Some of us are this. And it has to be, if somebody wants to be involved in this industry, we should make it as easy as possible for them to learn. That's my feelings.
Yes. But people have to want to learn. And that's the big problem.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think we've just lost Hugh because he just mumbled, everybody's frozen.
It's just Hugh, it's just Hugh.
And I don't disagree. He's back again. I don't disagree. But the thing is people want to have to learn in the first place. And people have to see the value in learning. And I think a large part of it is when you tell a big group of people they have to do something, even if that thing is intrinsically good for them, there's going to be a proportion of people that turn around and be like, I don't want to do it. Why? You can't tell me what to do. It sounds like a bad Monty Python sketch, doesn't it? What's the industry ever done for us? Oh, they made they gave us CPD.
Here's a question for you, though, just going back a little bit. I know what you're saying about domestic work.
hmm
If we had no rodenticides, how difficult would your commercial work become? All of it.
Exactly.
That would make it harder
Oh,
for
absolutely.
us.
Do you think?
So-
Do you think the big boys? Do you think the big boys would struggle? I think they would struggle massively, massively if we lost rodenticides, because from what I can see of them, they have a large turnover of staff, and they often employ. We went to a job where we were assisting one of the big boys, and they had 4 technicians on site at this one particular job. One had 10 years experience. The other 3 had less than 12 months. All of a sudden, if they're doing all the commercial work and you give them all 100, 120, 150 sites and say, by the way, there's no rodenticide, you're going to have to learn how to trap. It will be a baptism of fire.
What would happen in those situations is we would become more. Well, we've become more heavily reliant on smart technology, and unfortunately there will be those out there which will apply the skills and the knowledge, tracking a rodent's movements, understanding how they operate, their thought processes. The same thing we do with the chemicals we're in at the moment. But as soon as they will take smart technology and they will make it lazy. They will basically put it in a box and say, when these boxes ping, we'll be after, pick you up.
But it wouldn't work, Al, because now at the moment, what I'm saying is you can put a box down and you can bang it full of chemicals and it'll work because it's taking the skill of the pest controllers away. If you take it away and you replace those boxes with a smart trap, then all of a sudden there's rats running around, and this rats are not a sign that can be missed. All of a sudden things are getting chewed. There's rat shit tipping up all over. And I think it would be there for the taking. I think the big firms would really, really, really struggle. And I think smart technology would be shown as not. And I think you would get the industry reverting back to people who had natural pest control skills. And I think there would be a huge amount of money available for people with traditional skills.
I agree to disagree on that. I think we would see changes, but I think we'd still see the same bad practices coming in, just under a different umbrella. I think there's a lot of skill in the deployment of a box, regardless of whether or not it has chemicals in non-toxic monitors or monitors. And equally so, if you put that box down every 5 meters, then it doesn't matter if it has a trap in or, an NSGAR, an FGAR, a calciferol, or whatever the hell you like. It's not going to work. I don't think boxes make people lazy. I think people make people lazy, and there's skill in all of the tools that we use, categorically.
Yeah, but like Hugh said, and this is where it falls down. Like, put all these monitoring points out, and et cetera, et cetera. And the truth is, how often when a say a farm job now, an agricultural job, a problem arises on that farm, how often would the boxes ever solve it? They don't. It's usually a covered and protected bait point. It's usually burrow baiting. It's usually something slid under a shed. It is something well away from that. If that isn't available to you, how do you now get on top of that problem?
Yeah, you'd have to employ
time and energy.
Time and energy into that, and I don't disagree. The only bit I have a bit of a quibble with is the fact that I believe that there's a lot of skill in the deployment of chemicals to do it safely and effectively, in the same way that you can be lackadaisical with any of our tools. I think if you want to get the most out of these, you understand baiting strategies. As you just mentioned there, you mentioned 3 different deployment strategies of your chemicals without even looking at frequency strategies in there. It's as much as you want to learn. There's been papers written on it. Like, literally, I've got all of those folders up there. The first 3 of them are on chemical resistances. The next 3 are on rodent biology, and the rest of them are on baiting strategies. I mean, there's a phenomenal amount of information out there. I don't believe people would pay more. I mean, I'd love people to pay more for pest control, but I think people would not pay for us to come out as frequently as trapping would allow to be a successful program. There is a glass ceiling to this, and with the cost of living, I don't think we want to test the boundaries of what that glass ceiling is for what people would pay
I
for our
don't think there is
services.
I don't think there is a glass ceiling. I really don't. If there was no chemicals available on the market and you had rats in your house, how much would
Mhm.
you pay to get rid of them?
How many houses have you been to that have been absolutely riddled with rats because someone hasn't wanted to pay for pest control at the
Yeah,
affordable
but the
rate
truth
it is
is,
now?
that's a very small percentage of the jobs we get called to, and the vast majority of my customers, I don't know about you, Hugh, but the vast majority of my customers, if you were the only option and you charge them £1,000 to get rid of rats, it would be, well, they do, Alex, the pills, you know, when you think about it, if we do a drain job for you, to get rid of your rats, to do the survey, and to put, say, a standard liner in, you're looking at several £1,000s. That's the deal with rats.
So let's take this
Anyway,
a step
Oh, yeah.
sideways. Do you
we
believe that
Yeah,
we should include, like in the Nordics, that pest control should be included under house insurance?
no,
No?
no,
no,
absolutely not. No,
Why not?
because
because
I know why not.
you get a few of the big firms taking all the contracts on and basically just run around slapping poison down like what's going out of fashion and run away.
Like they do now
But
with the
there
insurance
is,
job.
That's a shame,
We,
because that could be a very nice way of solving these particular issues.
for the big companies that can take that sort of work on, it would squeeze the. I mean, we've got one now that's 2 doors down. It's an insurance job. God knows how much they're paying on insurance, or the insurance company's paying, because they're going every 3 days on that one. So they're going to.
it's usually
Yeah,
penny shoe.
I
It's
was going to
usually
say,
penny. Yeah.
I do know that someone that used to do insurance work, and they said it was like £50 per. It was ridiculously cheap. But the volume of work, I suppose, yet again, we're back to that volume, aren't we? On portfolio building.
Yeah, because I think that's probably one of the biggest changes in our industry this year. I have to say, more than anything else,
Yeah,
it'd be lovely to hear your guys' views on this. I know you're going to. Can you guess what I'm going to say?
lots of people being bought up.
Acquisitions. I think that's probably one of the biggest talking points of this year, isn't it? We've had 2 more players enter, well, 3 more players technically enter the mix, haven't we? We've had Anti-Cmex, we've had Orkin, and now we've got Pest Partnerships, and then a couple of little ones as well.
Is it the Oust Group, AUST?
We're missing Tyro Group as well.
Yeah, Tyro being Virgo, yeah.
All right, sorry,
yeah.
So Oust and Pest Partnership are the ones that are buying up the smaller guys, aren't they?
Yeah, it's leaving a really interesting sort of like donut shape in our industry, isn't it? Which is that we got lots of guys at the bottom. Now we don't have very many guys in the middle, and then we've got lots of guys at the top again. All of the medium-sized players have disappeared. From your guys' point of view, how's this going to affect your businesses, do you reckon?
Excellent.
You say excellent.
Yeah. As the sort of medium-sized ones get bought up by the larger ones suddenly have to control a lot more people. They've got a lot more cogs in the game, as it were, and suddenly things start going, unless they get onto it very quickly, things start going awry and go amiss, and then they start looking at smaller contracts and start saying, "Oh no, they're not paying enough. Go and get some more money out of them." They're not paying enough. Go and get some more money out of them. And at the same time, the quality falls. And I think it's good in the short term. In the medium term, if they get it right, once everything comes to level, then that's not quite so good. But in the short term, I think it's an opportunity for a lot of smaller to medium-sized companies.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Sean? How do you reckon it's going to impact you guys?
Don't care one iota. We'll just keep doing what we do. Fuck them. Like, we'll do what they do. We'll do what we do. Don't care one iota. Have we? I don't think we've had anybody bought up around us. There's probably one or two firms on my doorstep. Maybe it's one firm on my doorstep that's suitable for being bought and is probably going to become available in the near future. You know, like, just keep doing what we do. I
Matthew says,
never worry. Yeah.
difficult for smaller companies to grow with difficulty finding trained techs. I think the only thing in, quite honestly, after just having a round of trying to employ somebody, you're not going to find a trained tech. You're going to be very lucky.
I've got a controversial statement to make for this, and
Train
Sean,
your
you might be able
fucking
to. What?
Train
What
your
do you say?
fucking own. Train your own.
Yeah, train your own.
That my other point was: should people be looking for a trained technician to take on the work, or, and hear me out, guys, our industry is a lot of good technicians who are not as comfortable with the accounting, with the administration, with the back end of it. Instead of looking for a trained technician, which is a job that you can do well, and probably you're going to take someone on who won't work to the standards that you yourself believe in, why don't you start having a look at building an office team? Someone who can do your admin, someone who can go out and find the
Well,
work.
so you go out and do more work.
Yeah, you go and do the work.
You get
and
off
they
your ass and
basically
go and do.
Oh yeah, because that's what you're good at. And you find someone. I mean, Sean, you took someone on this year to do your administration in the office. How much has that impacted your business as you say
Supercharged us.
taking on your first technician?
Supercharged us. It's
Yeah,
supercharged us because, like, it's been brilliant. But also, what it's done is it stopped me putting jobs to one side that should have been done. So, for instance, I don't know, say there was an invoice that needed getting sent out, paperwork that needed chasing, it would go to sort of the back of the queue because I was, I had no one to hold me accountable for that. So it was getting put back and back and back. Having someone in the office who's going through stuff and looking at you like you're a dickhead going, what's going on with this? And you're like, oh. So like now I'm like, I better do that because I don't look like a twat. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, and it's true. So I'm like, I can remember when she first started, I was like, I'm going to have to eat a lot of humble pie early on. I know I am, because there's lots of stuff here that is not fucking right. And I've been firefighting, doing only enough to keep it going, to keep the back room ticking over. And you're going to come in like a mechanic and set about it. And like, there was a lot of humble pie being eaten by me on the phone to customers. Sorry, that's my fault. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. And it took a good couple of months before that humble pie fucking dried up. Like, but now they're off to the races, and we've got another thing on at the minute where we're sitting down going through a whole system, and I was like, remember when you joined her? Yeah, gonna have to do that again. So it's like that. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. She's like, it's okay, don't worry. We'll start the start blend at the end. So you sit down. So it's not just the work that they do; it's the fact that they bring that professionalism to the processes that you have to then make sure that you have to be on top of. And it's the same with your technicians. You'd humble pie with them because you want it done in a particular way, and you're so busy. Your first technician, you're like, I want stickers on all my boxes. I want them tethered down. I want this. I want that. Da, 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 da. And then they tip up to some site, and they're like, remember how you said you wanted it? And you're like, yeah, I haven't done it yet because of. And you come up with your excuses, don't you? And then when you get into the back room, the same thing happens there. So you've got you have to understand that it's going to drag you forward.
I mean, that Matthew said about training, there, sending people away for a week, but we didn't. You can get away without doing that. You don't have to send them away for a week.
No, in my opinion, this is what the safe use of rodenticides should be used for, in my opinion, which is when you've got a trainee, you want to make sure that they are safe. so they can learn. It's their provisional permit, so they can then learn to drive. You get them their safe user identified, you get them the provisional driver's permit, you then teach them, and then in 6 months' time, when they've had some real world experience, they've seen this, they've seen that, they've seen wasps, they've done some rat jobs, going to pull a mole out of the floor by its ear holes, then they're in a good position to sit that. Because you've got to remember as well, and I did level 2 training for a long time, sending someone on a level 2 course is not a guaranteed passing of your level 2 course. It's between 60 and 70% pass rate with most of the good trainers there. It means that you could be putting £1,000 into a course, only to have someone come back and say, I failed. And what happens then? So yeah, I think there we go. Having Adele part-time in the office, switching Pest Control made us much more efficient. I genuinely think that next year, 2025, or even 2026, instead of looking for a new technician, look for an administrative person in your business.
You can still ask anybody, or can you still ask any of the trainers to fit somebody on the exam at the end of the course?
Yeah,
because that's how I did mine. I just said I need to come and do the exam. I don't need to do the course, thanks very much. I'll just come and do the exam.
Yeah, sometimes. So what we would do at IPMC is you pay for your exam papers, and then you pay like a corkage fee, let's say, which is just the day rate for the day that you're there. It's significantly cheaper, but at the end of the day, you've got to bear in mind that the trainers too are making a living, and the last thing you want them to do is just to sort of like be running a day center for people to come in, do the tests, and walking out. Otherwise, you wouldn't make any money, because you're taking a day out and you're having to hire the facility and you're having to be an invigilator. So it's not so cheap as just doing the exam, like buying the exam papers. But yeah, there is an option to do that. A lot of them will allow you to come in and do that for a reduced cost of the whole thing. Absolutely. So yeah, that would be my big ask. There we go for the next year. Have a look at getting the other end, because we're an industry of really skilled people who are let down sometimes, as Sean says, by just burying your head in the sand. You don't want to chase those invoices because it's uncomfortable and it's icky. You don't want to basically have to sort of like fight with that guy to negotiate over every 20 cents. You're going to just basically let it wash on by. Focus on what you do well, and delegate the stuff that you do not like doing to someone else. And if you do the pest control well, delegate the admin on someone else. If you do the admin well, then look for a technician.
What you've got to remember, Matthew, is the fact that there are a lot of pest control companies out there who are still running their technicians on safe use of rodenticides and safe use of insecticides, principles of insect control. Never even done a level 2. So again,
Matthew, my advice to you is bite the bullet, send them away for a week, get it done, get it dusted, get the tick in the box, and move on with it. If he's been with you for I don't know, fucking however many years, let's say, for a long time. Say he's been with you for 3 years. It's like less than a day and a half, a week in it on the grand scheme of things. And
Alex, your way was brilliant.
Yeah,
before
Ollie still does that, by the way.
Right.
Ollie still does that. The 5-4-3 approach. So what we used to do is over 5 weeks. So the course lasted for 5 weeks. The first 4 weeks were online learning. So on a Monday there'd be a seminar or after work on a Monday, and then you were given homework and reading to do for that week. So for those 4 weeks, you had health and safety, then you had legislation, then you had vertebrates, and then you had invertebrates. And on the week number 5 was a 3-day course to basically pull that all together, and you had the exam at the end of each day. So 5 weeks, 4 weeks of tutor-led online learning, and then 1 week of or 3 days, and the last
3 days, wasn't it? It wasn't a whole week.
Yeah,
That's the thing. That was the beauty of it. So you didn't have to put somebody up for like 5 days in a hotel. It was just like 3 nights in a hotel, job done.
3 nights and job done, yeah. Because you used it one of your lads. Ladies and gentlemen, Hugh, the tightest person on the planet, sent a technician away for training.
Only because I totally embarrassed him. Was probably because I totally embarrassed him in front of everyone, wasn't it? And started shouting, "You're not going to support your pal Alex, like you're not even going to send him away." And he was like, "Yeah, we'll do." And it was nothing to do with support. It was just like proper tight. But Hugh, we've had a bit of a role reversal, haven't we? Hugh started buying shit, haven't you, Hugh?
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
Temu or from other places as well?
No. He's been
Well,
spending money,
actually,
real money.
That's real money.
real money, because I have to
Yeah.
say, that's probably your big thing this year, isn't it, Hugh? What did you get down on your little farm?
We
Oh,
got the containers and the
Yeah.
office, Starlink in, computer systems all up and running. Bought a
So-
second site.
So CPD, different CPD, right? All of that comes from every other week on a Friday. People have a call on Zoom. Everyone jumps on. You stood there. This is how we probably got introduced to each other properly, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, it's like the learning I did in Teesside, I found out about a grant. Hugh found out, and the next thing,
Yeah.
Hugh's now got a container which was half paid for. I hope you don't mind us saying grant money.
No.
And all of a sudden, you've now got firms coming to Hugh to deliver training courses in his thing, CPD.
And ladies and gentlemen, that talk that Sean's referencing, that was the Friday night pest managers chat that we started up during COVID for everyone to be able to sit and have a chat and connect with one another, even though we were very sort of like disparate and fractured at the time as an industry, because nobody could go down the pub and have a chat anymore. That's continued on. What's that been now? 4 years that we've done every other Friday. People have just bounced in for a chat and a catch up. And as Sean says, he heard from it. That's the joy of networking, isn't it? That's the joy. That's the real joy of these podcasts and these events where we all come in and chat together. We all benefit from them. There was no losers from that equation. Most of the time, you.
I stole your thunder, Hugh, so tell me about your thing.
What thing?
Your container.
Yeah.
Containers, yeah. So we got the containers, we got a classroom now. So that's good. We've got another technician starting. We've taken one on, bought a new van, another van. So yeah, we've been spending some money, unfortunately. Yeah. Oh yeah, bought a MetaQuest 3 to see if we can do virtual meetings with it. So yeah, get that. Spend some money.
How's that gone down? How are you planning on doing virtual meetings with your MetaQuest? Please enlighten
Don't know
us.
yet. Don't know yet. But unless you stay ahead, you fall behind.
You know what I want to get into next year that I'm really keen on? I want to try and get into drone stuff. I want to basically, talking of your MetaQuests, because I spend a lot of time up on the farm, weekends and the rest of it. I think it'd be amazing just to sort of like have that different perspective on the world, I think that's a really interesting bit of our industry. It's an emerging technology that I think we've got a
3D
lot
training?
more legs. Did you say VD training?
3D
3D training.
3D training,
I did.
not
I
syphilis.
did have a look at some of that. Not VD training, something very different.
Very different.
Yeah. No, virtual reality, that would, and 3D. I think there's a lot of scope in that. I've been having a look at some technology to actually sort of like take an entire warehouse and present it in a sort of like 3D Google Maps type thing.
Yeah.
To try and augment training again. I think that'd be beautiful. I think that'd be a really, really nice one. Anyway, we've talked about CPD a lot now. What else did we have on the list? We had FICAM, Hornets.
We got FICAM. We've also got the changes with the MPTA.
Yeah, there've been some big ones, haven't they?
CEO Kevin Lawrenson, certainly kicking it up a notch, or it seems to be. A lot more aware of the MPTA, a lot more social media presence.
I don't think Kevin is kicking it up a notch. I think the MPTA was always doing it. I think the difference is they are broadcasting it and letting people know. And I think that's the difference. And it looks like it's went from an association that sort of was there to the description I got was there to take your money to give you a badge to an association who was doing something for you. I always think they were doing things for you. They were just ticking along in the background. Whereas now that public display of this is what we're doing for you, It feels in the last few months like there's been a total reversal between them and the BPCA, and they're now like the people who are leading our industry. And I'm sure that nothing has changed behind the scenes for both organisations, but there is a public perception attached to it, isn't there? Agree? Disagree?
I think the thing is with social media, so many people are, you know, the old ways of learning, not just learning things, but getting news, that they've gone. You know, you pull over in the lay-by, most people pull their phone out and think, oh yeah, what's on Facebook, or I don't know, Twitter or whatever, unless an association is on there, which the BPCA were a lot. You know, they were very visible. Certainly during COVID, they were very visible. You know, unless you're seeing that, you probably just go, well, they're not doing very much, are they? No, never see them on there.
Here's my complaint of both associations. They both have a technical department, and they get phone calls every day, every week with technical questions. If you've got one technician struggling with that, you know, boot lice, whatever it is, there'll be other technicians struggling with it. Put it into a post and put it on social media. So you're not helping one person, you are helping hundreds, possibly thousands. Like, for what it costs you to put into it to quickly note something down. You know, if you say to them, you couldn't send us a photograph of that, could you? And they send you a photograph and you go, oh, that's a good photograph of Wharf Borer. Very quickly, you can jump on and you can be like, this is a Wharf Borer. It eats rotten wood. This is what it is. And there's people out there who'll go, fucking hell, I didn't know that. Like, don't help one, help all.
This is it. What are you about to say, Hugh?
I was going to say, you're chamming at the bit there, Alex.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, I've been a big advocate of the BPCA for a long, long time. I've been a big advocate of both of them, but I've been a bit more involved, as you all know, with the BPCA for quite a while, because they helped me out a lot to begin with, and it was just a better fit for me as I started. It was never for me an either or. It just so happened that I did more with the BPCA and I felt more aligned with them. But they do a lot. Both of the trade associations do a lot more than you see. I mean, you touched on glue boards. They spent, BPCA especially spent a lot of time trying to get us, and we think we got a rum deal, and we did get a rum deal with glue boards, but it would have been so much worse had the trade associations not intervened on our behest. Same with chemicals, the same with traps, the same with all of the tools in our industry. There's so much that is done to try and keep our industry present, front-facing, in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of the policymakers, in the eyes of the regulators, making them understand the importance of what we do and how we do it. And that's the stuff that you don't see and you don't appreciate.
We don't, as an industry, the two associations don't shout about that enough. They don't say, this is what we've actually done. This is what we've actually saved. They put it in a bit more politically correct way. This has happened, that's happened. But what they actually should say is, look, this is what we've actually done and saved. And I think that probably the other thing that we need to stop as well, following on from this year, is, do you want to be in my gang? Do you want to be in their gang? Everybody's got to be together. It's getting, it's got to be, whilst we're doing that, we don't look very professional. We don't see the gas safe boys arguing with each other. They're gas safe. It's like straightforward as one as such.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to have a united front. We're a tiny industry. I was, you go to the away. Yeah, you go to a Premier League football stadium, and the number of pest controllers in the UK would barely fit the away stand. That's how small we are as an industry, right? So to be sat there being like, I'm Capulet and I'm Montague, and that was possibly the.
Sean's thinking something. I can see it.
Yeah, he is. Be a part of it.
How many of them have had a change of CEO in the last 12 months? Basis, MPTA, BPCA, Crew.
Crew. Yep.
So
We're going to see a very, very. You know what?
They've all changed, really.
Yeah. When you think about it, each one is going to bring their own unique way of leading and their own unique way of the direction that they set. It would be silly to think that we're going to continue down the path that we've continued on for the last however long, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. Change for the better, change for the worse. But it's not very often you see all of the top CEOs change within 12 months, is it?
Yeah.
No, and I think that the main thing that we probably may see is that because things were hopefully a bit more open, we as the coal miners at the pest control face, hopefully won't be kept as mushrooms quite so much.
I'm going to put this one up because this is
open.
Yeah, this is a bit contentious because a lot of people see this as a negative thing, and I'm going to say this is one of the things that the BPCA does for its members. We applied for a large tender and was told they only accept BPCA members. That's not that. The BPCA and the trade association, the MPTA does it too. They lobby hard to make sure that large tenders and large decision-making processes, and when large sums of money are, that's the best people, inverted commas, or some of the best people out there. And arguably, you don't have to be the best you don't have to be a member of a trade association to be.
Hang on a second. I know this has changed.
This is what the BPCA does for its members.
No. This is what BPCA does for their big members, and this is my complaint.
No.
Yes, absolutely. It's changed in the last however long. But the fact that you were not allowed to subcontract out to anybody who was not a BPCA member effectively meant that anywhere that you were going to have any sort of specialist work included with that, e.g. bird of prey work or anything, meant that there was only one or two firms in the whole country who could get that work. I know they've changed that recently, but this is exactly what they did, because we done this. We went to look at a massive tender in our area. We didn't have bird work within ourselves. There was no bird work. There was no BPCA firms that we could subcontract out to. We had a specialist bird work guy who would do it, and they turned around to me and said, we will boot you out of the BPCA if you subcontract out to anybody outside of it. So we literally had to step back. It meant that the only firm who went for it was the firm who got it, because they had it in-house. So when you say that it's BPCA, it absolutely suits their big members down to the ground. That might change. I'm expecting it to change with this ability to subcontract out. But the annoying thing about it was, I knew for a stone cold certain fact at that time, that the big firms were subcontracting out to non-BPCA members for specialist work. And when I asked the question, I was told, you get caught, you're out. And I was like, they're doing it? And they're like, we don't know about that. And I was like, you fucking do know about that. So when you say they don't look after the big firms, they do. And they did. Okay. But let's see what happens with a new CEO.
I think that was a big misconception, because I did a lot of reading, especially when you brought that up, around that particular thing. And the exact wording in the laws, or whatever you want to call them, is you can't subcontract out to a BPCA member for pest control work, but you can subcontract out to a non-BPCA member for specialist work, which is not killing rats and mice or spraying for bed bugs and cockroaches.
So
hang on, let me finish this for a second, because the big issue was exactly that. But the subcontracting was done because part of your membership was that there is, or was, legal cover in case something went horribly wrong. And so if you weren't subcontracting out to a BPCA member, then you weren't any longer covered under that part of your agreement which gave you legal cover. So that's why they put it in there. It wasn't to try and protect anyone. It was to try and make sure that they could make sure that the people that they were, their members, weren't just giving work away. And it just got skewed. It just got horribly skewed and misinterpreted over the years. And now they've just removed it.
Yeah, but Alex, I literally rang. I was a member of the BPCA. I rang the BPCA and said, it is for this work, for bird of prey work, what happens? And they said, not a chance, Sean. Not a chance. And Billy raises a point there. The rule was flouted by BPCA senior management. was being flouted by all the big boys and the big boys in power, but the smaller boys were held to account, which kept us out of kicking the ball. And that's what happened. I promise you,
it's
that's what happened.
Changed now. So let's see if they stick to their word in 2025. And I hope they do. And I really think they will.
So do I. I think
just out of interest, though, if going a bit off piste, so as Matthew says, that particular company said they wanted a BPCA member, and I take it that a company as such is perfectly legitimately allowed to choose whoever they want to choose and say, I want an MPTA member. I don't want a BPCA member. I want a member of Freddy's snack bar.
Discotheque.
But if it was a government body that then turned around and said, you must be a BPCA member or you must be an MPTA member, would that not then come under restricted practices?
Only if it restricted it down to one.
Right. Yes, that's what I'm saying. You must be a MPTA member. You must be a BPCA member. You can't be.
But there'll be more than one BPCA member to choose from at that point.
What more than one member of one association? Multiple members of one association. That would still be restricted, wouldn't it? Because you're saying you must be a member of a trade body, which is a limited company.
A restricted practice would be if you were to turn around and say the only people that could get this tender would be people who are X, Y, and Z, and basically that list from 100 possible candidates shrunk all the way down to one possible candidate.
Is that not a bit like the trade unions in New York? You've got to be a trade union member, otherwise Don Corleone's going to come in and give you a kicking.
I mean, the restricted practice came about in many years.
Is that not like what we had with the CPD scheme? So,
how do you mean?
Well, if you wanted to be a member of the MPTA, you could only go to one place, couldn't you? I know that's changed and we're moving forward, but was that not? I don't know. Let's not dwell on that, anyways. Let's not go back to the CPD. We've had enough of that shit.
Just out of interest, Sean Muller says, like Trustmark approved only, ? BPCA's got all of its members on Trustmark, but it doesn't stop anyone else joining Trustmark. If you're an MPTA member, you can join Trustmark. If you are neither a member of either, you can join them. It's just the BPCA managed to get all of its members de facto done. Rebecca,
somebody think that takes away?
What?
Oh, do you think that takes away from being a Trustmark member?
If you hit a minimum criteria, then there's no reason why you couldn't. If you have this qualification, show commitment to CPD, you do X, Y, and Z, you do everything that you are required to do, then you become a Trustmark member. If it just so happens that all of those things are also covered by your membership into a trade association, then you've hit those brackets by default. And that was the argument that the BPCA made, that you're hitting those brackets by default, so transfer across. So you are there, but anyone can become a Trustmark member. You just have to apply for it. Some recent tenders have been saying that you must now have a turnover of 3 to 5 mil. Now that is a bit more restrictive than saying a member of X or Y trade association. Absolutely. I mean, that's that. But mind you, in my early days of when I had the consultancy, a lot of the company, I was VAT registered from day one when I had the consultancy, because a lot of my suppliers would not pay me unless I had a VAT number. Categorically, they wouldn't take me on unless I had a VAT number.
Yeah, we did that, Alex. We would go in for a job, and they'd go to you, you give them a price, and they go, is that with or without VAT? And you'd say, I'm not VAT registered. And you would know that job had left you like that. Because their thought process is, if you are not turning over that much, how much can we rely on you to do that work? So we went VAT registered from the first day I jumped on this full time. We went VAT registered, and it's never made one difference to anything that we've done.
Other than the arse of keeping your books up to date every quarter.
Getting stabbed by a big bill every quarter, but then you've collected it anyway, so.
Oh, yeah. I don't mind telling anybody, we put 20% away automatically on our bank account. Anything that goes in, you can put 20% into a pot.
Yeah.
And that 20%, because you're claiming the VAT back that you pay, will often pay your corporation tax. So as long as you collect the VAT, you're almost, we're different now, it's getting worse now, but early days when we done it, we're sort of tax-free and we actually get some money back. You know, so that wasn't something that I would tell anybody to be worried about. And of course, here's the other thing. If you don't go VAT registered, you've put a self-imposed ceiling on your business.
Hmm.
You are saying, we are going to stop at 85 grand or whatever it is, and that is it, and we will never get over that. And it means that you will only ever deal with the customers who are going to keep you under that threshold.
Yeah. And arguably, there are some businesses out there, as you say, micro businesses, sole traders. You don't need to be turning over any more than that. You are doing your rural pest control. You are, you cover 3 villages and 2 counties.
Quite happily. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Don't worry about that. That's absolutely where you need to be. Don't feel like that is, the end of the world.
If you're one person turning over £85,000 a year, and you're not traveling too far, and you're okay. Can't see anything wrong with that.
But you're making a wage, aren't you? That's what you're doing. You're making a wage.
You're making a wage, yeah.
Hmm.
It's the equivalent of, probably no more than working in Lidl, I was going to say, but yeah, you're doing
it's not much more. But it's not much more.
No, probably not by the time that you've paid everything out.
It's not just that though, is it? And this is what people can't get their head around. For me, I think
holiday.
No, off your holiday. Well, then the next thing is, how many hours are you actually putting in? Like, because if you went to work for a 9 to 5, say you turn over 85 grand a year and you think, oh, great, I'm rich. If you looked at the hours that you spent on your business, if you actually went and did them for somebody, or 93, if you actually went and did them for somebody else, those hours and those roles, you would take home more than you would take home doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Running a business it has to be a love to start off with, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, who else is going to answer the phone at 8 o'clock at night? Who else is going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Who else is going to do because what you don't do, or what people don't do, is they don't factor in the time it takes to go to the account, the time it takes to go to the bank, the time it takes to go to the suppliers, the time it takes to do this, the time it takes to do that. And you stand there and you go, I bet you at 93, I bet you're not much over minimum wage. I'll almost guarantee you.
Come on then, who's going to come on and say hello then?
Yeah, let's have someone on.
Anybody in there?
Rupert, I've never met Rupert. Rupert, do you want to come on? Because I've never met you.
That's a no then. Anybody?
No, that's a no. Have a look. Well, let's I don't know, hornets or bees? We got another couple of minutes left. What should we discuss? Hornets or bees?
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Pineapples.
Pineapples. What else has gone on this year?
We've had a couple of withdrawals. We've got a couple of new bits back in.
Somebody got quite a big job this year, didn't they?
I did.
You did? Yeah. Well done, Alex.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, we won't mention names as to not get me in trouble, but yeah, I think many of you guys know. Took on the role, as the global technical and marketing manager for rodenticides for a fairly large and well-known company, and it's going well. I'm enjoying it. 6 months in, end probation technically ends 1st of January. Still there. Done a lot of traveling. Been to the States. Been to all over Europe, which is quite nice. Got the potential to be going to Southeast Asia next year as well, just to go and see how they do that. And I have to say that the amazing thing that this new role has afforded me is the ability to see that around the world we largely have the same kind of pests. There's a couple of different species, there's a couple of different animals, but broadly speaking, brown rats, black rats, house mice. And we have, very broadly speaking, the same chemicals. There's a couple of different ones. The States has bromethalin, we don't. There's a lot of zinc phosphide out in the Far East. But broadly speaking, we have the same arsenal of chemicals. We have the same pests. We have the same problems that they're producing. And yet, the way that we get from problem to solution. If you think about it, same pests, same problems, same products. You'd think that the solutions, the way of getting from A to B, would be the same, but they're not. The routes in which these different countries take to get from problem to solution, nobody does it. Nobody does it the same. And I've been around the
Sean
world.
Muller, come on. Sean Muller, come on. I have thought of a
Sean
big
Muller's going to come
talking
on.
point, which I think was for this year. The young
Yeah.
lady who died of phosphate in London.
Oh yeah,
Yes, in Tower Hamlets. Yeah, that was something else.
Did you read into that? What happened?
I can tell
Yeah.
you what happened. So it wasn't anything to do with the pest management company, which is what initially a lot of shade from the media was thrown towards our, towards our industry, because it was a professional product. But it wasn't a professional product that was used. It was a product that was brought in from south of Europe.
Italy.
I think it was
Italy.
Pardon?
Italy it was.
Okay, yeah. She'd gone out to visit family. She brought back this product, been encouraged to place it into her flat, disappeared off again for a weekend, and this slowly effervesced aluminium phosphide into her flat, which then sunk down into the floorboards, into the room below, and the room below, lo and behold, happens to have a small child living in it, which died as a result of inhalation of aluminium phosphide. But she wasn't jailed, was she?
No, and it wasn't. It wasn't just her. I don't think she brought them in. It was the brother or the brother-in-law and the sister-in-law, whatever it was. There was a couple of people convicted. They'd had an ongoing bed bug infestation that they couldn't deal with, and they'd sourced this product in Italy when they were in Italy, put it in a suitcase, brought it back, and fumigated themselves.
Yeah,
good job, customs. They did a good job there, didn't they?
So, but there is an important question here. Not to be a weirdo, did it work?
I'm sure it would have done. I mean, so my understanding is the product that was brought back, it wasn't the same sort of like tablets like the Talon X or the Fostox that we use. So a lot of they use.
Did they try to sheet the bed over or anything? They just chucked it in the room.
Yeah,
it's little tea bags. You get it in little tea bags, and the idea of it is you open up the sachet, you expose the tea bag to air, and the moisture in the air causes it to produce aluminium phosphide. And they use it a lot in shipping. So they basically use it in shipping containers. They'll throw a handful of these sachets in. Yeah,
that was the other thing as well. I think they'd massively overdosed, hadn't they?
Yeah.
It wasn't it was like an amateur use product, and it was 4 tea bags per house. They'd use like 40 per room. I'm making the numbers up, but they did say they said it was a massive overdose, not in line with the label of the product. So everything that we are taught not to do, they fucking did, and someone died as a result of it.
Again, and this brings us into line with then. Is licensing the way? Should we be licensed? Should the products on our industry be licensed? And then
still would have come in whether we were licensed or no, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but it would have made it easier to brought a criminal conviction against those who had then done it incorrectly. It would mean that we'd still have.
I think that had they wanted to, they probably could have given a criminal fiction anyway. I would have said. I'm sure there was something in there.
Some other people. Right, so we actually have in the green room the other Sean. So should we bring him on, guys?
Hang on a second before he comes on. Are we allowed to talk to Sean? Because he's our competition next year, isn't he? So come on, should we all beat him up and call him names?
Oh, he is, isn't he? I hear this. He's going to be doing his own podcast, isn't he? What do we reckon?
Who the fuck did Sean Muller think he is doing his own podcast, the bugger? Come on in, Sean.
Oh, let's bring him in.
Another bold fucker, ain't it?
Do I have to shave my head to remain on the podcast? Is this?
How are you all doing?
All right, good. I'm suddenly very aware that I've got more hair on my head than you guys, 3 guys have.
Yeah, when I cut my hair, it's like not worth hoovering up. I just pick it up in my hand and chuck it in the bin. There's not a lot left.
There we go. How you doing, Sean? You've been a listener to this podcast for a long old time, haven't you?
Yeah, it's got better over time. Obviously, when it was on Facebook, you didn't really know what you were doing at all. To be honest, you tried, but obviously, when who was it? It was the American podcast, Gabe and that. I think they told you to get StreamYard, didn't they?
No,
I
you
went
went-
to
yeah.
the podcast with them.
Yeah, but Alex went over there and actually, like, I think you went there and used it, didn't you? And Alex come back and he was like, lads, there's a game changer. We're
Yeah,
not using Facebook shit thing, and we bought StreamYard.
it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It is.
I did a
So,
podcast for them, and then actually I have to say I went and visited Andy when I was in the States. Actually went to go and see him. Went to his little office. Went to his little. Whereas we're all sat here, and Sean, you're sat there on your sofa. Sean, you're sat there on
Yeah.
your sofa. Hugh, you're in your office. I'm sat in my little porter cabin. Andy has a full-on room in his office. It's just a room dedicated. He's got a full sound desk. He's got cameras all over this. He's got lighting rigs. He's got diffusers. He's got microphones. He's got everything. I mean, it's amazing. And I'm just sat here with a pair of old headphones on, talking to a 30-pound USB microscope, webcam. I'm like, oh man, yeah, your setup's.
That's a different
it
level.
is good. I've seen it on the. He done a LinkedIn post where he showed you all around, but obviously it's different in person, Alex. Obviously, it's much better.
Oh, it really was. I felt so. What's the word I'm looking for? Just ashamed of my
Insignificant.
£30. Insignificant. That was it. Like really, sort of like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm taking this quite as seriously as I should be. But go on then, Sean. What's your podcast going to be focusing on next year then?
Well, it's just like a pest control. I'll be honest. I've already had people interested in coming on. Jasmine's already messaged me wanting to come on. It's just a pest control industry podcast interviewing different people. Not exactly the same as yours, but I'm going to find an angle. But I just want, because I've done podcasting in gaming since like 2020. So although I'm on my phone now, I have got a gaming PC and all the microphones and everything. So I do have the experience of interviewing people, because I used to do like an interview show where I interviewed a lot of YouTubers and things like that. So I do have a lot of experience in things like that. I do.
You should interview them while doing a 2-player online co-op game. I just want to see sort of like the new chair of crew, Nigel, just basically desperately trying
That
to
would be a
find
good
his
idea,
way.
wouldn't it? That
Would
would.
be quite fun, wouldn't it?
It
Just
would,
trying to
yeah.
see some of these guys panic their way through a level of. I was trying to think of an old platform game here. Can't remember any of them. Lawrence is the one to ask about these. He does like to stream them, but yeah, there we go. So, what's your big win? What's your big win, Sean, from this year?
Big win was big win this year. Do you mean pest control wise, or my recovery from breaking my knee? I would say recovering from breaking my knee, for the second time breaking the knee, losing a load of weight back from April now, and I'm obsessed with the gym, as you've probably seen all over LinkedIn and everything. I post stuff everywhere. I do, because I'm a bit obsessed by it. I'm not on your level yet. You can deadlift 200 kg. You told me. I'm not on your level yet.
That's
I'm coming, mate. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, that's it. Maybe we need to have just like a big group session, don't we? Just all pest controllers get down the gym.
Yeah.
Just all see what we can lift together. Sean, you proudly told us in the chat the other day you don't do a jot of weights. It's all cardio.
Never
for you.
lifted a weight. No, it's
Yeah.
When we go, it's like probably an hour, just over an hour of like just flat out. You've got to finish as hard as you start and just go for it. I mean, like sweat dripping off you at the end. You are a hot, sweaty, sticky mess at the end of it. It's just non-stop. I've tried. Yeah, weights not my cup of tea. I'm not built for weights. I'm a skinny fucking built like a racing snake kind of bloke. So it's well, our Sean might come back.
You might go back in a minute.
We've seen a few movers and shakers.
So
of guests, yeah, we saw Alan Mullins this year moved from Pestfix to Veritas.
Yeah,
consultancy.
Super jealous of Paul for that. Those two are going to absolutely make waves in the industry. Looking forward
she's
to seeing
brilliant,
what they
isn't
can. Yeah.
We saw Natalie Bungay moved to Sean's, not less Sean's, but
Oh,
Sean
yeah.
Taylor's Pest Force. So we've
Yeah.
seen that's another
Yeah.
mover, as it were. I don't think there's been too many other movers and shakers, really.
The weird thing is we're such a little industry. Well, let's bring Sean back on, see if he can wade in on this. But our
I was
industry so
doing a
tiny.
Jim England then. I messed it up on the phone.
Okay. So just in and out and in and out. No, our industry's so small that people tend to sort of like, we get a lot of lateral movement, don't we? We don't tend to really see people ever. You're either in this industry for 5 minutes or for 50 years. Like if you make it through your first year in this industry, that's it. It's got you claused and you're done for life. So you tend to only see sort of like, you don't see people really leaving and new people coming in. You just tend to see people, the music stops and they appear somewhere else, especially in the M&D community. People tend to hop about all the time, but you very rarely get to see people disappear or getting brand new people in, unless I'm fully mistaken.
No,
I mean,
much the same.
I'm still new compared to you guys, so I've only been in it since 2020, but I've not noticed any major changes really. People leaving, I haven't.
It's such a.
Why are you waving a broomstick around, Sean?
I've been sweeping up. Obviously, one of my things this year, we've been doing the house up, and we went and we are nearly there. We've got carpets to sort out. So when I finish this, I'm going to go and sweep up. That's what I'm going to go do and chuck a load of shit in the bin. That's me. We've got a weekend of tidying up. So I want my family back. I'm sick of them. The missus and kids are living at the mother-in-law's, which I know a lot of people like. Hate the mother-in-law and the father-in-law. Totally the opposite with us. I've got a proper pair of belters, like a real pair of good ones. So it isn't an issue, but I want them back. I want them back in the house. And miss them terribly. Even I go and see them every night, every morning. Like I just don't sleep in the same house as them, but I just want them back. They're just great. I love the Bens. Little Max and Matthew, and Max is talking now and running around, and Matthew's coming up 9, so he'll be on your podcast fucking for games. He loves games, loves football and all that shit. So yeah, I want them back desperately.
There you go. So I think as we come to an end, because we're up at 1:30 now, I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn it to the head a little bit. Sean, go on. Here is your moment. Guest on the podcast. Your first podcasting duties. Ask each of us in turn a question. Interview us. Just quickly. Quick fire round. Ask each of us a question, and we'll try and keep it to a 2-minute answer, no more. Just end the podcast. What do you
lot think the future of pest control is? There's a broad question.
Who's that to? Who was that to? Like, ask
Any of you. Any of you.
All right, Sean, you can take that one.
Say the question again. I didn't hear it properly.
What do you think the future of pest control is?
I want to tell you it's going to be different, but it's not. It's going to be the same. There's going to be changes, but the changes will be on the grand scale of things minute. We will just adapt and grow with it as it goes. So it may be that we lose a product here or there, or even if we lost all escars, there's still calciferol, so which we're using and we know how to use. We're just getting different formulations. I don't think there's going to be that much of a difference. I think one of the things that we could do a lot better, is we could potentially look at dealing with the recruitment problem within the industry.
Mm-hmm. The recruitment problem, I think, partly is also with young people is van insurance prices. That's a lot of the difficulty as well. Because if you're under 30, it's through the roof.
What we do, you basically get them insured on a hatchback because they only need to take a limited number of kit out there. So you just send them on the small jobs. Give them, you just put them in a hatchback.
Yeah, I hear that, but you can't. You can't employ someone to do the little jobs when you need someone. It's a big job. it covers their insurance. You've just got to be smart with it. Get the right youngster in. Don't bottle it because they're a youngster. If you get the right youngster and you get them, you've got them for 20, 30, 40 years. Just make sure you get the right one, don't bottle it. Take the young on if they come up, I think.
Go on then. Sean, second question.
But Alex, you're going to love this one. What's
Am
the
I?
amazing, great alternative to Vicam D?
I mean, we only have one. Well, actually, no, we have two alternatives, don't we? We have 3 alternatives. Okay, let's take this back a bit. We have 3 alternative dusts. We have natural pyrethrum, we have pyrethroids, and then we have azimethophos, which is an organophosphate. So we do have dusts. There are still options out there. My argument being that we have had it easy with Vicam and dusts. There is more than one way to skin the proverbial. Sean, you were talking a lot last year about using things like Vaser, using things like Herbiochoc to actually do a direct nest hit. There's a load of different ways. There's a lot of different products out there to do this job. We have just become pigeonholed and very blinkered in the fact that we've had a great product with an easy application method that we could fire, forget, walk away from, and you could do half a dozen, 2 dozen in a day. Now it's just going to require a little bit of thought. So when you say what's the number one product, your ability to assess a situation, to be able to deal with that nest, and using the entire bloody catalogue of tools that you have at your disposal in the right and proper way. So there we go. That's my answer.
That's a good answer.
Compact.
Okay,
That's a good answer.
now there we go.
I'm trying to think of a third one. I don't know. Will they remove any more products next year for the market? Hopefully not. There you go, Hugh.
What do you reckon's biggest risk next year?
I'm hoping nothing.
Biggest risk next year. Would you say, Sean?
Symmetrol Super.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be.
It will wind everyone up.
I think, yeah. Yeah, I think it will be an insecticide will go next. I'm not quite sure which one. I'm surprised that quartz as a methylphos is still available or re-available. I would think that would lose it. How long's azimethophos got? I would think that the limited usage is not really worth re-registering that one.
Well, you've got it cropping up in a couple of things, because you've got it in Strike, which is the little lacquer spray, haven't you?
Yeah.
And you did have it in quartz. And I believe there is another powder with it in, so not just sort of like quartz. It depends on where it is in, because at the moment, all of the rodenticides went from COPR, which is national rules, across the BPR, which is international harmonization. You got UK BPR and EU BPR, but everything's going towards BPR, which is the biocidal products regulations. All of the rodenticides pretty much have gone through once. The insecticides are all following suit. Most of them are under, gone from COPR to BPR now. It's literally only like a couple of stragglers that are still to go through. So yeah, you're right. It may be interesting to see if they do defend azimethophos, considering that it has such a restricted.
Although, saying that, we are finding Strike very effective.
I've no doubt. Yeah,
is it spraying the beds with it?
The frames, yeah.
Yeah, really. Something we haven't covered. Lost fucking fipronil, didn't we?
Lost fipronil. Yeah.
Thank dog walkers for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, no, it's too soon, isn't it, for next year? I was going to say apprehend is coming, hopefully, but I think that's going to be a couple of years, isn't it?
As far as I understand it, the lady Nina from Apprehend is they have been. So there's a couple of things, because Apprehend is because this is the one that Richard Naylor was telling us about.
Yeah.
It's based on a fungal spore, and they've got manufactories, let's call them manufactories, biorefineries out in the States, where they make the most of it, but actually trying to then get that and fly it across to Europe, very expensive. So I think they've found someone in Europe who will be able to culture and manufacture it. But the thing is it counts still as a biocidal product. even though it's not a chemical, it is still a biocide, and so it's having to go through biocides. But with biocides, there's two sides of the coin. There's the active material registration, and then there's the product registration. Now, a lot of what you see out in the product catalogs is cheap because it's just a product that's been registered on someone else's active dossier. So it's just basically a me too. With what these guys are having to do is they're having to register both halves of that equation, which is expensive and takes a long bloody time. So I think they've been trying to do it for at least a year, if not more. So who knows? Hopefully at some point, because that would be a game changer, wouldn't it?
Are we going to see more firms producing calciferol, and are we going to see more formulations of calciferol?
I have no doubt there'll be more formulations of calciferol over the years. There simply has to be.
Hasn't it?
Limitations of calciferol, as you've got to imagine, is the fact that it is a fairly unique active material. It's not an SCAR, it's at a much higher dosage, which kind of limits a lot of those. You'll never get it in a grain formulation unless we do something very sort of like unique to it. It kind of limits you to pastes, blocks, and other novel formulations for that. As for will you see more manufacturers? Depends on if anyone else wants to put the money into taking it through registering their own AI with that. Because
the thing is, though, you must be crackers if you don't. If you're relying on SCARs, because one swipe of a pen, you could be gone. Whereas at least if you put your time and effort into calciferol now, in that one swipe of a pen, you're in a very large market with less suppliers. It just, yeah.
Well,
it's a very good point.
It is a good point, but you've got to bear in mind as well that a lot of the decision-making processes lump all rodenticides in together. So they're all at risk, and that's why we have to use all of them responsibly. Otherwise, the restrictions may come across unilaterally, which is going to be problematic. I think the reason we don't see more people with a Coley formulation is the same reason that it's taken, Apprehend many years to hit the market. It took a long time for the two registrant holders of cholecalciferol in Europe to get Coley, a well-known and well-established active material, back on our shores. Anyone else starting today wouldn't necessarily see any return on that for several years. And so at that point, if the risk is you're going to lose it tomorrow, will there be amateur use cholecalciferol? And well, no idea. I don't have a crystal ball. Do we have amateur use products yet? Do they have restrictions yet? Can I tell you what the future is going to hold for any of these things? No.
In America, can they buy that on the shelf? Because they always say in America, I'm not about California, that they can pretty much get their hands on anything. Do you know?
I don't believe. I don't know. I don't believe. I can't talk out of turn. I don't believe there is a. Actually, no, I lie. There is. I think a chemical called Terad, which is aimed at the agricultural market. Yeah.
Okay.
They've had calciferol over there for years.
You could buy an AK-47, but you have to fucking pay to get calciferol. Do you know what I mean? Like, only in fucking America.
Do you want an M16? Yeah. Please. Let's see your driving license. There you go.
You're giving them away, weren't they, with bank accounts? When you opened up a bank account at Barclays, you got an AK-47, but you had to go and pass a test to get Coley. No, that was legit, yeah. When you open a bank account at Barclays, yeah, you got to. Have you never watched? It's a Bowling for Columbine.
It's got to be an M16 or something.
Whatever it was, or like an AR-15 or something. Yeah. Bowling for Columbine, and Michael. I think he's a bit of a prick, that Michael Moore, but there was factual stuff in it, and he was taking you through it. Yeah, you opened up a bank account, and you got your choice of assault weapon with it. Well,
I kind of feel like I've been a little. I didn't get anything when I started up any of my bank accounts. I think when I was 16, I got a checkbook and I could choose the picture on the front. I feel a bit hard done by now. But there we go. Yeah. Right, I think that's brought us up to a bit of a close tonight, hasn't it?
I think so.
3 questions. Is that the 3 questions? Are we going to do them? You enjoyed your time on the podcast? That was our
3 questions done.
Oh, here's a go. Last 3 questions in for you two guys. Have you enjoyed the podcast this year?
Oh, it's been a
That's-
lot of hard work, but I've loved every episode, I have to say. Hugh?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I think
yeah, really
I
have.
think it's fair to tell everyone though, as much as it looks like me and Alex do the hard work, the truth is Hugh is the absolute engine room of this thing, and he like
Yes. it
credit
really
where
is.
it's due. It was shit when we were doing it on Facebook. It's got better, not just because we've got StreamYard, because we've got Hugh in StreamYard. Yeah. Thank you, Hugh.
Um,
You're welcome.
yeah, thank you a lot, Hugh.
Thank you, Hugh.
Yeah.
Next one.
I mean,
Shameless plug, boys.
Hugh.
You're such a fucking knobhead. By the way, Hugh's got a training centre down in his place. Anyone who might want to use it, we've discussed it 15 minutes ago. A shameless plug, Hugh?
Yeah, we have a small training centre down in here in Somerset. If anybody'd like to use it, you're more than welcome to hire it out for the day. Got tea, coffee making facilities, whiteboard training facilities, and we're on a farm, so you could even do some practical stuff if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Give us a
Alex?
shot.
My plug. We, as I said before, so 10,000 pest controllers in the UK. We regularly get to probably about 1,000 of them. I would love that this time next year we double that. We get more and more people on to the podcast. We're talking about CPD. We're talking about connecting people. We're talking about networking and where do you get your information from. I would love for our little podcast, humble though it is, to be a really reliable and independent but just enjoyable way for all of you guys to keep up to date with CPD. So if I have one plug, it is literally for next time you're at a breakfast meet, next time you are at a regional show, next time you're just having a coffee with your mate who also does pest control, tell them about the podcast. Just tell them about the podcast. Get them to come on.
If anybody wants a little leaflet, a podcast leaflet, I've got one with a QR code on. Just ask me and I'll fire one over to you, print it out and stick it at your next meeting. Personally, I'd just love to get us over 1,000 people because it's been a big aim of mine. I've been hounding people to follow the page and just to get another 80 people. 80, that's all we got to get to hit to 1,000. It's like people don't quite realize that, okay, we're not the slickest we're not the slickest podcast, and we don't exactly have a script, but it does take quite a bit of time to get people on and messing around. So
we are the most handsome pest management podcast in the UK. Let's just, we've got Justin Bieber out
T-shirts.
there.
Yes,
Hang on a
got the
second. Billy McPherson, he's went on about this for ages. I've asked for ages for his fucking t-shirt size. Asked for ages. I found out last week what t-shirt size he was. So he's going on. He's going on. Like, I fucking let him down. Like, I can't just make it up, can I? I can't make it up. I can't make your size up. And Stuart told an absolute lie. He said that you were an extra large. Said, mate, they're not fucking spandex. They're not stretchy. I need your real size, son.
Oh, excellent stuff. Right, go on, Sean. Last one here. What's your shameless plug? And then we'll call this to a close.
No, let Sean Muller give a shameless plug first. He's been great being a guest. Come on.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Follow me on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to want pest control on the Pest Control podcast. I doubt there's any customers listening.
Oh, you look like Justin.
I would like to come on the podcast next year, though, as a guest, but that's up to you. To talk about health and mental health and fitness to do with pest control, because it's helped my mobility no end. It's things like that.
We are booked until March, but we'll sort something out after that.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Billy McPherson has said that I look like Justin Bieber. All right, mate. You look like Meatloaf. And obviously, my shameless plug, without a shadow of a doubt, is Pest Software. Whether that's the CPD, whether that's the digital reporting side of it, we are building that in the right direction. I think it's by pest controllers for pest controllers. I can't stress that enough. We're not doing it from what we think or what, you know, it's boots on the ground stuff that helps us deliver what yous need, and we would love to do a little bit more of that. And it's free CPD for a year, free scheme for a year. What's wrong with free?
Simple.
Oh yeah,
There we go.
CPD made simple. Let's do that.
Let's do that. Right, so I've got one final thank you. I mean, we've thanked Hugh for being the man behind the scenes. I'd like to thank my co-host Sean, because having both done one of these independently, I haven't done one on my own for a very long time. They are very difficult to do on your own. It's a very difficult thing to do a podcast and talk for 15 minutes, let alone sort of like an hour and a half. So big thank you to Sean for being, you know, co-pilot, leader. You know, big thank you. And more importantly, those who are listening, I know a lot of you guys listen back on Monday, so you're not going to hear this live. But thank you very much, because you are the reason that we do this. Those of you who listen live, an even bigger thank you, because it's so much fun seeing the comments coming in, the banter, the chatter, you know, the jokes. It really does make, and you'd be surprised as to how much Hugh, Sean and I all sort of like have a giggle on and off the camera at some of the things that you guys say. But a big thank you to the people who have been listening for the longest. So, Sean, thank you for coming on, and thank you for listening for so long.
I love it. I love it. It's a good way to get CPD as well. It's a great way.
I think we can get over the 1,000 by the new year. If just the
Apple
people watching
podcasts
this
as well.
hang on a second. Just the people watching this do one thing for me, and it's dead easy. Go to the podcast page, click the 3 buttons, the button with the 3 dots in, and it'll say invite friends. You can tick the box to invite everybody. When we done that, we saw a massive uptake of it, because it just goes out to everybody on your friends list. It'll go out to like 1,000, and then you can click the next 1,000 or what have you. That was a massive thing for us. So if anybody is watching it and hasn't done that, Risky Staff Ads, there's loads of them to watch. You have a go at it. Stuart Blair.
I was trying to say, Stuart actually has a very special individual shout out, because he has put us into more contact with more guests.
Well done, Stuart.
Anyone else. Stuart has been an absolute star for finding leads for us and introducing us to people such as Bobby, such as Mary, such as a couple of others.
Minkman.
Stuart.
Minkman.
Yeah.
Minkman
All the big
well.
ones, really, innit?
Neve.
Yeah. Yeah. Done Mint, yeah.
So well done, Stuart.
I'll send you
Thank
some
you.
chocolate with your t-shirt, Stuart.
There we go.
We'll have to go into that one another time. Mars bars and sheets. That'll be another story one day.
That'll be I think that'll be the story for the new year. New year, new story. There we go. He's a nightmare on the bevy, though. Excellent stuff, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you all on. Any final comments before I hit the big red button?
Love yous and leave yous.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do
a good new year,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Take care.
All right,
See you in
bye-bye.
2025. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Beauties and Beasties podcast.